Hi folks, how you doing? A remarkable second round in the Norway 2014 chess tournament. We had lots of exciting and fighting chess out there, and 3 decisive results from 5 games, which is not bad at all at this level. And well, very remarkable and interesting games, and I think the one I'm going to show you in this video was the most flashy and spectacular one, a very nice game. It was played between the Italian GM Fabiano Caruana, who is white here, and Peter Svidler is black. Let's see what happened. We have the Sicilian defense, the e6 variation, not sure how to call it, maybe Paulsen, Taimanov, Khan, whatever. This has been Svidler's choice lately against d4, a dynamic and interesting choice. This Sicilian, now knight c6, this is pure theory, of course very logical moves. Knight c3, of c4 is possible, knight c3 very logical as well, queen c7, and well, now for some reason I'm not really sure to remember the knight going to b5. I think it's queen b6 or something, is not that great right now, but after bishop e3, now the bishop is more or less guarding b6. That's now black plays a6. Once again, I'm not an expert in this defense, though I'd really would like to, because this seems a cool defense for black. Now a6 is played, and white is playing in a classical open Sicilian way. He plays queen d2 with the intention of castling long and launch an attack on the king side. Knight f6, so white castles long, and the very main position in this line. Opposite color side castled kings are very likely to be seen, and well, mutual attacks and very exciting and interesting chess. Here it is, the most played line is to play bishop b4, pinning the knight here, attacking with the knight e4, and it is played normally f3, knight to e5, knight b3, and the typical b5 move with very complex, typical open Sicilian position. Sorry. But instead, after white castled, Svidler played bishop e7, putting the bishop on e7, not on b4. Still, white keeps playing similarly, f3, to overprotect the c4 opponent, support the g4 advance, g4, h4. This is all very typical in these kinds of Sicilian structures, to attack on the king side. Now b5, king b1, prophylactic and useful move. It is clear black is going to create something on the queen side. This is where he's going to play. Have his chances, his counterplay, so white must be careful. He moves his king aside from the c file. Now knight e5, controlling with the queen the c file, and also giving himself the chance to go with the knight to c4 if white bishop allows, so if it is possible. And this game is following, by the way, this knight e5 move is following Morozevich, who played this way with black pieces against Shomoev in the Russian team championship this year. So now g4 and b4, and this logical move must be more or less the novelty of the game. Morozevich in that game in the Russian team championship played bishop b7, g5, knight h5 was played. After rook g1, Morozevich castled, and after a hard fight, the game was a draw. Svidler instead goes with the direct b4. The knight goes somewhere, and the best place is to play knight a4. The point of going to e2, the drawback of it, is that the bishop is not guarding c4 anymore. Now black will have this opportunity I talked about a couple of minutes ago. Knight c4 forking the bishop and the queen, and black wins some initiative here. Black's pieces are a little uncoordinated, like stepping on one on another. Instead, knight a4 makes more sense. Peter Svidler plays here h6, controlling g5, advance a little bit. Rook g1 was played by Caruana. Something like h4, which seems also natural, I think, would be responded equally with the counter attack in the center with d5. So basically this is what happens after rook g1. d5 is played, and well, it is said that whenever black can play d5 in good conditions in this line, he's supposed to be doing well. And well, objectively speaking, the engine agrees. It says it's all equal, but of course the game is now reaching traps and tactics as a good up and Sicilian. Lots of pieces here, lots of captures. Now with the pawn tension now in the center, and lots of possibilities here for both. Really cool position, attacking one for both players. Bishop f4 is what Caruana plays, pinning the knight. D takes e4, and white doesn't take back because this pawn is very likely to fall. Black just keeps developing, improving his pieces. Bishop b7, and has quite a good position, fairly solid one. Although he has this his pin, but his pieces are reasonably centralized and has a fairly good position here. Instead, Caruana goes. He's following the supposedly best moves here by the engine. I mean, which are supposed to be the best moves, one after another, and that is one of the remarkable things of this game. He plays now g5, attacking the knight, and after h takes, he has the rook here to take back with the rook. Now both pieces are attacking the e5 knight, so the solution Svidler finds here is to go back with the other knight and defend the one on e5. Now Caruana takes his pawn back on g7, e takes f3, and here Caruana chose a really aggressive continuation, really an imaginative move. He had the safe, more or less safe, or more, let's say, calm move, queen e3, attacking the knight, also opening the d file for the rook, attacking the f3 pawn, etc. And the engine says it could be continuing with bishop f6, the rook going back to g3, the bishop developing to b7, the knight taking on f3, and well, with chances for both players, I guess. Black could play, as always in this line, on the queen side, with rook c8 for instance. But on the other hand, white has this somehow nasty pin on the knight against the queen, and fairly centralized pieces, the control of the d file. Black king is still in the center, so well, very dynamic and balanced game here. Chances for both, interesting position anyway. Instead, after e takes f3, Caruana goes with a very interesting piece sacrifice. Knight takes on e6 he plays, and after f takes e6, he's opened up black king's position. This light square diagonal is now very vulnerable, so bishop d3, intending to go to g6 with a check. And remember, the knight is not really protecting that square, as it is pinned against the queen. Svidler plays bishop f6. Well, now he has both his knights pinned, but he's attacking the rook on g7. Really a rich and tactical position here. A game really to develop your tactical and calculating abilities. Here, this is forcing, as probably he knew already, both players knew, forcing a queen sacrifice after bishop g6 check. Why? Well, because after king f8, for instance, rook f7 check, king g8, and rook g1 is just game over. Black king is not happy at all, and is going to have tons of problems. So after bishop g6 check, the best move for black is to sacrifice the queen for a couple of pieces. Knight takes g6, genuine piece, queen sacrifice, bishop takes on c7, bishop takes g7, and well, black has 3 pieces right now for the queen. The good things for him is black has the bishop pair, and also he has connected passed pawns here already. Although they are not very strong, they could be vulnerable, but somehow they are connected passed pawns. The bad things for black is that his king is in the center, and it is not sure where this king is going to find safety in this game, because castling either side is now suicidal, so not even possible. So well, it's very tough game here for both, more for black than for white, because white has the queen, the opposite king, weak king to play against. But definitely a complex position and a very interesting one. Definitely probably the most interesting and beautiful game of the round here. White plays queen d3 with the attack on the knight, knight g5, and Caruana switches this bishop for the knight. Svidler takes back with the bishop, and now queen e4 was played, attacking the rook. Well, maybe it was possible to check on g6, and after king e7 play this typical idea in this position, which we're going to basically see in the main line in the game actually being played. Knight c5, attacking the knight, and well, the point is that if knight takes, white has this queen g5 check, attacking both bishop and king, and if bishop f6, now the queen takes on c5 with lots of initiative. This is a check. King goes, for instance, to f7, queen c7 check with tons of initiative here. If king goes to g6, the rook goes to the g file with a check, and this is really starting to be king hand here. And if the king goes to f8, now queen c6, both bishop and rook are under attack, and I don't think this can be saved really, because for instance if rook b8, now queen d6 check, attacking both the rook and the king, the game is basically over. So well, this was another possibility, but certainly queen e4 is seeming to be very strong too. As the engine says, this is the best game move. Once again, Caruana following the best moves, it seems. Rook a7, and now he plays the knight c5 idea, with similar ideas to some of which I explained just a minute ago. If knight takes on c5, now he could take on e5 the knight and attack both pieces on h8 and c5. This is losing a piece. That's why after knight c5, Svidler plays king e7. Now, very beautiful moment here. Whenever black takes on c5, black has this possibility of attacking both pieces on h8 and c5. So he's just making a move. Caruana just makes a move, threatening something very little to take on f3 and control the f file with some dangerous with a dangerous cage for the black king. So he's forcing more or less black to take a decision, and Svidler well decides to protect that pawn with the rook on f8. But now the problem is that now white has a very simple way of winning the bishop on e5. Knight takes on d7, rook takes, and guess what? The bishop is hanging. So queen takes e5. Caruana just wins an extra piece. That easy, right? And the technical phase of the game begins. He has a queen for 2 pieces right now. The advantage, the clear advantage, the driving seat here in the game, and he has to now convert this edge. Rook d5 is played. Queen goes back to e3. Rook df5 and queen f2. Maybe giving himself the extra possibility of going to this diagonal. a5, b5, b3 is giving a room to the white king and stopping any counterplay possibilities here. Bishop d7, rook g1, bishop c6. Svidler tries to tie everything and create a kind of a fortress style position. King back up, rook to f7, rook g8. After rook f8, Caruana doesn't want to exchange rooks right now. He goes back to g4. Rook f7 once again, a3. The pawns are exchanged here. King d6 maybe to avoid the check on a7. But now the king is, as in the beginning of the game, really vulnerable. Now rook c4. Bishop d5 is played. And now rook c8. Speculating the possibility of a check here, probably with some dangerous effects. But well, king e5 it's what Svidler played, and it seems he just resigned after playing this move. Well, the king's position seems to be the main source of problems for black. The engine is suggesting here c4, and if bishop b7, queen e3 check. The bishop, it can go back, but now another check on c3, and if king goes to f4, apart from having a very poorly situated king, white has a couple of passed pawns which could be eventually pushed up. And well, it seems this is a really lost position for black, although I'm sure I would lose this 100 times having white pieces here. But okay, Svidler here resigned, giving Caruana the early lead, very solid lead in this tournament, 2 victories out of 2 classical games. He seems to have really got over that blunder in the blitz game against Magnus Carlsen, so really good for him.